I was in a Zoom call earlier this year, and some people were live and some people were Zooming, and I was Zooming, and teachers were asking questions. I had no idea what they were saying, so I definitely remember that feeling. All right, so welcome to class. Yesterday, I took a moment to ask anybody if they had any questions regarding just the vocab chart. You know, as you guys are kind of plowing through that and working through that. So I wanted to give you guys the same opportunity. Just any type of question at all. I can give you some of the examples that I kind of heard all day of different types of questions in case you are also wondering the same thing. So I had, throughout the course of the day, one student asked me what of these words is going to be on the exam, and the answer was all of them. Okay. I had another student ask and state it's hard for them to get the real world example column filled out, and I told them that you can either use true examples from that really have happened in your life, or you can make up the examples. They don't have to have happened in your life. Or you could use the book examples. You could also use in-class examples. So any of those would work. Another student asked, where do I find all the people that are supposed to be in that column? And the answer to that was, you will have many, many empty spots. There will be, the perspectives for sure will all have people. But other than that, it'll be just more sporadic. So how about you guys? Do you have any personal example or questions, Allison?
For our real world examples, like, do we have to describe what we mean, or can we just put like a keyword that, like, I know what this means, but do you have to understand what I mean by that as well?
No. So the question was, for the real world examples, do I have to describe what, or could we just like simplify it for your sake? And that's what I want you to do. I want to make it more yours. So I might look at your real world example and go, this makes no sense to me at all, but that's okay because it's more for your study guide. How about you, Luz? Okay, so Lucy's question was, I couldn't find socio-cultural. And is there some times where you guys are going to get vocab words where it's not in the book? First of all, yes. And the reason is because I use vocab terminology from all forms of the psych. So what you have to understand is your book is one source. College Board doesn't just test you on the Myers psychology book. They test you on all of psychology, right? So I try to bring in all of the terms that are necessary. So there will be times throughout the year, that's a really good question, where you'd be like, it's not even in here. Google it is a good one. There's a bunch of really reputable AP Psych sources out there. So sociocultural, it was the palm of your hand was the example I used. And what I was telling you about is your behavior is strongly influenced by how your peers influence you, how the media influences you, how the family that you grew up with influence you. So when you think about the culture, the place that you grew up, that's a strong influence. So the example you could put down, if you were diagnosing with somebody with depression, I said, maybe potentially they're very sad because they're living in the state of Wisconsin, in the city of Kenosha, where a lot of turmoil is going on right now. And they're personally affected by it in some way, shape, or form, and it was making them very sad and depressed. So, whereas you and I would not feel that depression because we live in Dubuque, Iowa, and we're not exposed to that every single day, potentially. Does that help? Okay. No person for sociocultural. All right. Any other questions? So I just encourage you guys to ask questions about anything. Don't wait till the last day. It's going to be graded, as I mentioned. The first 3 columns need to be filled out for an entire 100% grade on that. Okay? So the only column that would be able to be blank would be that last column. This is due. I should probably tell you your due date got moved back a bit, so that's good news. So when is your test? You guys will be testing on this unit on the 11th, which is a week from Friday, okay? And that's when your vocab chart will be due. I believe that's later than what I originally told you. Am I correct about that? Okay, yeah, so at least it's not pushed up. So if we have no more questions about that, I'd like to kind of tap into what we talked about yesterday and then roll into just some more practice with correlation. That's the goal for today. Tomorrow we are going to get into standard deviations, and it is vitally important if you are struggling, if you are not a person that you would consider fairly strong with numbers and understanding numbers, that you tune in, that you read, that you stay up to date on that stuff. Okay, so this was yesterday, Learning Target F. You were supposed to put on your vocab chart from 25 to 27, what is a correlational research? We talked about how it is meant to predict behaviors and only predictions. Correlation never means causation, and they will always try to trick you on that. So that's a really important point. We talked about the correlation coefficient and illusory correlations. So take out your homework, what I asked you guys to do, which would have been that very first buff sheet in your packet. All right, so what is the psychological researcher trying to prove with causation, or I'm sorry, with correlation? And in some classes, I had some time to actually go over some of these answers. In other classes, we ran a bit short on time, so I wasn't able to. So if you are at home and you're looking in and you're watching, you can actually just fast forward if we went over this as a class yesterday. So the answer I told the students to put down is it has to do with the relationship. That's what it's trying to do. What is the psychological researcher trying to prove with correlation? Right here. Here's your answer. And please write all those 3 words down. They're trying to prove how the strength of a relationship, the strength of the association, the strength of a connection between 2 variables. Let's consistently use the scientific terminology. I often have students that'll say things, well, they're trying to prove like how strong 2 things are. I often get the word things from students. You need to get in the practice and the habit of using the word variable, because that's how I want you to write when you actually write your essays too. Because simple nuances like that is where they'll cut you on your scores. So what are the things called? They're called variables. So how strong is the relationship between these 2 variables? How much of an association do they have? How much of a connection do they have? That's what we're trying to prove. We are not ever going to say that the relationship between the 2 is because one causes the other. You just cannot say that. So that's for the very first letter. The second number, where it talks about, or I guess it would be part B, what does it mean when the researcher writes R equals? So we're talking about the correlation coefficient now, and we're talking about this is the actual number, and it's a range, so you should know that, okay, somewhere in your notes or have that written down, that the range is between -1 and +1. And as I mentioned yesterday, a lot of students, if they get any of these questions wrong about correlation, where they mess it up in their brain is they mess up direction and strength. So please note, and keep that straight within yourself, that the direction is the minus and plus sign. That's which way it's going. And then the strength is based on the number. So an example I gave students yesterday, 0.88, pretty close to 1 there, okay? 0.24 is further away from 1. So most people would say, oh, I don't know, but let's put some numbers down here and see what this is. If I put a negative 0.88 there and a positive 0.24, a lot of times kids, when they don't understand this, they look at this and they see the negative and they say, oh, this one's lower because it's negative, and that is not true. Negative tells you the direction. meaning the relationship, the direction of the relationship. If it's negative, what's going to happen with my arrows? One's going to go up and one's going to go down, meaning one variable is rising, the other one is lowering. So when I say, the more I study, the less sleep I get at night, that is a negative relationship. That's what we're talking about. A positive relationship, this one isn't as strong because it's further away from 1. You see that? Even though it says positive, it's not as strong as the negative 0.88. What this is saying, the direction of the positive is saying 2 variables are either going up or 2 variables are going down. So the less calories I eat, the less energy I feel in my day. Both variables are going down. I'm pushing it down that way. Here could just be completely the opposite. The more I eat healthy, the more energy I feel throughout my day. Questions at this point for clarification? For some of you, this is an easy review because I know some of you have a stronger background than others. And, if I said, if you were an AP Stats student or if you're taking AP Stats, this is, and I think in some other classes too, you guys probably have gone over stuff like this. Yes, Luce?
So when there's a positive and negative, it never means positive and negative.
It's just the direction, 100%. And like I said, if kids get it wrong, this is where they're going to get it wrong, okay? So keep that straight in your brain. So for number 2, you guys, you were supposed to put positive and a negative. What'd you say for positive? 2 arrows going up. As room size goes up, what happens to my level of satisfaction? Should go up. And the negative correlation, as room size goes down, what happens to my level of satisfaction? It should go up. Even though I think most of us would say, really? Why would that happen? We're not saying how realistic it is. We're just saying that would be a negative correlation. Anybody have any problems with the scatter plot? You remember how to do that? Y and x-axis, and then you put your dots. That was for number 2. Anybody have questions? For number 3, does the graph show positive or negative or no correlation? Beth, what'd you put for that? It's a positive correlation for sure. It also asked you guys to actually estimate the correlational coefficient number. Just so you know, you're never, ever, ever going to have to compute it mathematically. They will always give you the number, or they will say, hey, how do you infer this? Okay? So they wanted you to make basically an inference and say, well, a perfect positive correlation, how would my line look? A completely linear line. That's a 1.0 there, okay? That's a perfect positive. Is your line completely linear? No, we know it isn't. So now we're going to make an estimation. And if you are anywhere between the range of 0.70 to 0.80, you are in a good spot, okay? How are you feeling on that? Did you estimate roughly in that range? I mean, you just should not be below 0.50 is what I'm saying. And it's not up into the 90s either. Okay. So that was number 3. Number 4, do these results prove that the room size causes a change in student satisfaction? You can stop reading after you read the word what? Cause. Because once you saw the word cause, immediately your answer becomes no. They will try to do this to you guys all the time. And when I say they, I'm always talking about College Board. It's not me that writes the test. But they love to do this. And students that are not knowledgeable will get that wrong because it sounds logical, doesn't it? Like, yeah, room size does cause room satisfaction. Like if I was a betting person, I'd say, most college students do want a bigger room. But we can never say one thing causes the other. So be very cautious with that, and we're going to practice that today. Last but not least, record one personal illusory correlational example. So that is number 2, the question right here, or the, not question, but the word. So what is, Randy, an illusory correlation?
Do you mean my own or have a problem?
Oh, first of all, I just want to know the definition.
Oh, well, it's like a correlation you make up in your own head or experiences.
Kind of. Yes, yes. You're on the right track. Can you?
Music.
Wait. We'll hold on to that one. Does anybody want to expand on the definition of illusory? Anybody write it down on your vocab chart? Maybe you have it right there. What do you got, Allison?
It's like thinking that there is a relationship between two things and there's not.
So what she said was, she said, you're thinking there is a relationship, and there's really not a relationship. So we, in our head, imagine these relationships of happening. I explained it yesterday to some students. It's kind of like the superstitions you have, where you think things are, if this happens, then, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. But these have just been things that have been told. So I gave this example to some students yesterday. I said, my mother, who, God bless her, she is getting older, and she's had a couple hip replacements, and she will swear. She was actually just up here last night, and she's like, it's going to rain. And I'm like, why do you think it's going to rain, Mom? Because my hip hurts. And she thinks there is a correlation between her hip hurting before the rain happens, and she can predict if the rain is going to come. It's not a very accurate thing. What's that? It was accurate yesterday, but she's been doing this for a long time. How about you guys? Give me one of your personal life one. Randy, you were going to share yours.
I just said music makes homework easier.
Music makes homework easier. So the more you play music, the easier your homework is going to be. Okay? Okay, Carter, what do you have? Think of one right now. Do you have any superstitions that either you or your parents or you've heard throughout the years? Yeah. If you walk under a ladder, then you're going to have bad luck, right? People correlate the two. Gabe? Yep. Opening an umbrella indoors. Now who's got a personal one that you actually follow? Allison?
It seems like the later I stay up, the earlier I'll end up waking up.
Oh, isn't that funny? The later you stay up, then you wake up earlier. Maria?
The Bible team believes that if you braid your hair the wrong way, you'll lose.
Yes. I used to, I've coached enough students just throughout my years, and I can't tell you the wacky things that they would believe that they had rituals, they would call them, that they had to do in order to play successfully, which really, honestly, I did the exact same thing back in the day. Were you going to say something, Seth? No? Okay. Gosh, how'd this get under here? I'm all tangled up, peeps. Oh, you saw my face. Is that on? I think it's on, isn't it? People at home are like, he was such a dork. Good. So we're good with that. Let's take a look at the board. When we look at our scatter plots up here, which are also stuff that you have in your notes, we can see the lines going down. We know that's a negative correlation. The lines are going up generally, positive correlation. The dots are all over. We see there's no correlation at all. Okay? How long your hair is depends on how successful you will be in school. No correlation at all in that. So that would be like a 0 correlation. Let's take a look at these 4 that are here on the board. I'm going to move this here for a second for you guys. But what I would like you to do is just answer in your brain which way. That's so loud. I'm so sorry, people at home. Probably sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Okay. Adult weight and running speed. I'll call on you guys randomly and then tell me positive correlation, negative correlation, or no correlation at all. Okay? Madeline, you're up. Okay. No, it's okay. So what you're saying, as adult weight goes up, your running speed increases. It'd be a negative. So as adult weight increases, your running speed tends to go down. Correct? But can we say one causes the other? No. Very good. All right. Beth, close friendships and happiness. As the closer friends you have, the more happier I am. Good. Seth, sense of humor and years in education. So you're saying the more humor you have, the more schooling I have obtained. No correlation, that's right. People are very humorous even if they've never gone to school before, right? And then last but not least, visual acuity. What does acuity mean? Sharpness, like how good you can see. Jackson and salary. Careful on this one. This is your trick one. So what type of people tend to start to lose their sight? Ooh, older people. So as people age, what tends to happen with their salary? It tends to actually decrease. Like if I'm thinking like my parents who are 80, they aren't making the income that they made when they were working. So as they start to lose so that one was the trick question one. Okay, take a look at the next sheet of paper, if you don't mind, on your packet. And then flip it one more time, guys. Let's see where you're at. Okay, so I want you to go to the back side. It's turned. It's a little graph, and it's turned this way. If you haven't done that, go ahead and do that. I'm so sorry about the stapling. I really apologize. When I sent it to print, you just kind of got to bend it down. So basically, for the first two graphs, you're going to say, is it a strong, is it weak, or is it positive or negative or no correlation? Okay? And then the last two are on the side. If you need a chance to let me read it to you, I can definitely help you out. So they're doing this little chart here. Again, apologize for the actual stapling on that. So this is just a really quick checking for understanding. This is what you would see on the test, something like this, or what I have on the board. That's an example, those 4 questions. That would be like an example of a test question for this particular learning target. All right, just say them out loud, guys. Scatter plot number 1, negative, weak or positive, or strong, excuse me. Sport weak. Scatter plot 2, so we're going right across. Positive or negative, positive, weak or strong, weak. Scatter plot 3, no correlation. Scatter plot 4, positive and strong. Good. Okay, so that was just a quick review. And then over off to the right, which correlation coefficient is the weakest? Answer is B. B. Because you're going furthest away from 1.0. Okay? And then what about the second one? Which correlation is the strongest? C as in cat, a -1. Good. Feeling pretty good about it? Okay. So what I would like us to do, one last thing, is to now what you have to do is some inferences of about, and you guys can just close up your packets. Gabe, I'm going to move you over here so that you're with a group of 3. Everybody should be with a partner straight across from you. You have salmon-colored sheets near your pods. Go ahead and grab them. Thanks, Carter. And what I want you to do is together, I want you to work through the answers. Don't write on that sheet. I'm going to use those for class. So just have out scrap paper would be great. You're not going to turn it in, but this is something you would see, something like this. So take a second that you're working on. First, there's 2 questions, so make sure you're both looking at the same question at the same time. Take a moment to read it silently, wait for each other to be done, and then answer the question. You are either trying to figure out, is this a correlational or is this an experiment? And then the why has to come in. Okay, go for it. What are you guys talking about?
In our packet.
Yes, I don't want you to look in your packet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so just on a scrap piece of paper, that would be fine, on the back. Maria's still sleeping from yesterday. Oh my gosh. These things lose their... Now I gotta find which one is missing. Oh, it's yours, Gabe. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna put this desk back together. Sorry. They come off all the time. Okay.
How are we supposed to do a scatter plot without numbers? Like, we just want to guess.
Well,
Actually,
give it your best shot, is what I want to say. Because I think you guys just need a process to kind of think through this a bit. So at home, this is what they are doing. They're working through these problems. Madeline and Seth, how are you guys doing? Okay?
The second one.
Okay? Okay. Good.
I like your mask.
Oh, thanks.
Where do you get those at?
I ordered them online. How you guys doing?
It's probably experimental, right? It's not? It's only food or... It said it was true.
I'm really liking how you guys are thinking through this. How you guys go? Oh, I see your graph on there. Okay. I am squeezing between you two. All done?
Yep.
Okay. Just hold tight. So it looks like most of you have at least finished or are getting close to finishing that first one. Some of you are on to the second one, and some of you are just waiting patiently. So we're going to give everybody an opportunity to try to really think through this. So if you're just waiting patiently, just take a breath, go outside, get some fresh air, walk around the courtyard, see you in about 3 minutes if you need it. It's always kind of nice just to get up and stretch our legs too. Did you guys get both of them done? Okay, yeah, 3 minutes would be great. Are you cold, Seth? Okay, you're shaking all over there.
Oh, so we're reading short. It doesn't really say what we're reading.
What class are you talking about? AP Lit?
Lit.
And who's your teacher?
She's amazing. I love her.
Yeah.
She's like one of my favorite teachers ever.
That's awesome. You must have had her before.
Yeah, freshman year.
Okay. I think there's another AP Lit teacher. Or is she the only one doing it this year? Do you know?
Not a big class, so I think
Oh.
she might be the only one.
Okay.
Because there's only, how many of us are there in that class that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, kind of like this one. Yeah.
It's really nice. I actually kind of like the smaller classes.
Actually, we're bigger in this class. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. We have 11. This is a good size.
Yeah.
If I get too small, it becomes very difficult for me for what we do. We do a lot of, the discussion stuff, and I bet Lit's like that too, but I do like the 11, 12. It's a good number.
I kind of like the 6, at least in Lit. The 6 is like nice because we all know each other and I feel like we can all converse without fear of judgment and stuff.
That's nice. Yeah, that makes a big difference. Kind of get to that spot where you feel like you are, concluding, and at least you've had an opportunity to read that second one, process it, chat about it. So go ahead and check your answers at home. Here at school, we're watching our time. I want to quickly go through these. Participants are asked to measure their steps. Take a look at that one first. What gave it away to your group that it was a correlational study? Gabe? So we're looking at, is everybody on the steps one? Take a look at the steps one. What gave it away that this is correlational? Yep.
That illustrates what the different ages is climbing up. So as their age got older, they would be able to tell, or predict that they would be able to tell that they were another method.
Okay, so you guys kind of went a harder route and you were thinking more deeply about it with the prediction piece. If you just look at the paragraph, what gives it away? There is a word there that gives it away that it's correlation. One word. And I have it on the board. Associated. That a boy, Gabe. So because it says associated, it means it's a correlation. And if you read in the answer key, it says there's no way that the experimenter can manipulate the independent variables. It doesn't have anything about that. So that's another key component. For your scatter plot, yes, you don't have the data points, but can you put these dots randomly going upward? It should look like this, okay? Now you needed to have on your Y and X axis the number of steps taken and the number of faces recognized. You had to label that. If you guys did not label that, you would not have scored. Make sense? Okay, so flip it over to the other side. The drug, this is an experiment. Why? Seth, why is this an experiment? You're right. Yeah. Yeah. We've got a control group and we have an experimental group. We have both those groups, and that's what you have to have for an experiment to occur. Most of you got that right, but did you get the graph right? This was an actual FRQ, and a lot of kids, when they missed this particular FRQ, they did not put the x-axis as the independent variable. So did you do that? Did you have time to do that? Some of you didn't have time, I know. But the x-axis must say my control group, and this is where they're at, my experimental group, this is where they're at. Okay? And then on the y-axis, the maze speed. And you can see it's operationally defined in seconds. Homework tonight, reading. And what I want you to do is if you go to the very next page, and it looks like this, it says experimental design review. It's more practice for you to pick out, is this an experiment? Is this a survey? Is this an observation? I've also included your answer key on the back side, but do it, see if you can actually self-check after you're done. I'm going to go over any questions at the beginning of class tomorrow on this page. We're not going to go over all the answers because you've got your self-check right there. We're going to roll into standard deviation tomorrow. And that's where we are headed. So standard deviation would be learning target G, describe the 3 measures of central tendency and measures of variation. I wish you all the wonderful week, whatever you're going to be doing, hopefully homework. I have no idea how it's going to manage or how you're going to manage it. Don't be afraid to give me an email if you're a little lost or confused about something. Conclude. Goodbye, everybody at home. Adios.